and welcome back to Apaka Podcast. Today's episode is a bit of a recap on the season, as well as some forecasting about what you can expect in the future from this podcast. If you are a new listener, Apaka Podcast is an actual play role-playing game podcast, which means it's similar to listening to an audiobook or an audio drama, except instead of having a script that we read from, we use dice. Here we go. We use dice to determine what happens in the story. We try to balance storytelling and acting with the casual feeling of sitting around a table with your friends. We'll go back and forth from, kind of like serious role play in the moment, and then if it's serious, we try to stay serious, but if it's kind of not so serious moment, then maybe you'll hear some jokes, some kind of out of game context. So we kind of break in and out of what's going on in the story versus, what's going on around the table. The game itself is very similar to Dungeons & Dragons, except the rules are simpler, in my opinion, and our setting is a low to medium science fiction in a post-apocalyptic world. While Dungeons & Dragons is traditionally set in a swords and sorcery medieval setting. So if you are a new listener, I recommend pausing this episode, and if you're interested in world building or understanding how the character creation process goes, I recommend going back to Season 1, Episode 1, where we talk about, most of those episodes are labeled as lore drops, and they talk a lot about the world building and the game engine itself. But if you want to jump right into the story, then I recommend going to Season 2, Episode 1, which is our alpha test, which is the first full-length story that is powered by the game rules. And just as a reminder for everyone, all of the game rules and the adventure path can be found on our website. Just click the episode description, and in there I'll have all of the websites listed. The basic rules and the adventure itself are totally free. Just, they're out there for you to enjoy. And if you want the full set of rules, which is, it's still in development, it's kind of like a beta version now, because we just finished the alpha test. It's like $5 to subscribe to our Patreon page. Really not a big deal. You probably don't need the full set of rules unless you're really excited about the system. But it's there. It's really kind of like a thank you. It's more of like a coffee tip jar than anything else. If you like the system, if you like the podcast, please consider subscribing to our Patreon page. So if you're a new listener, pause the episode, go back to Season 1, Episode 1, or Season 2, Episode 1. We'll be right here waiting for you when you're done. Are you done? Did you listen to the other episodes yet? Well, personally, I think they're a lot more fun than this one, but technically it's your choice. So at this point, I'm going to assume that you are familiar with the podcast, and I still have some updates for you. The biggest update is that we now have a YouTube page. If you found this video on YouTube, you're probably very confused because you're looking at me right now. But the podcast started as an audio-only podcast, and I suspect this will always be the priority. We're always going to prioritize audio over the video aspect. You can kind of tell that by the lazy editing of this video, where I just kind of chop things up willy-nilly because I don't want to put in a ton of effort, because I'm more focused on storytelling and kind of what the audio experience is. I typically listen to podcasts on my way to and from work. So I'll put something on and I'll drive and just kind of have it play in the background. And that's kind of the experience that I'm curating for. However, syndication with YouTube does come with some challenges, as well as some opportunities. When we started this podcast, we were hosted on anchor.fm/easyasabc. That link still works, but Anchor used to provide us with free background music before it was bought by Spotify. So some of the songs, like the intro music and the combat music, I own the copyright to that. However, a lot of the mood music, like the soft background music, that came from Anchor. And so I don't own the copyright to that, and they kind of, It doesn't prevent us from syndicating YouTube, but it might cause some advertising to pop up that we don't necessarily want. I don't have control over it as much as with our own music. Accordingly, I've taken it upon myself to create some more music for the podcast. Most of it will just be composed from GarageBand loops, but some of them I recorded and played myself. The bad ones, the ones that sound like you're at a middle school recital, those are mine. However, I applied enough sound effects to make it sound sci-fi enough that I think it's just fine for background music. Also, YouTube currently just copies the audio straight from Spotify and then puts up a static image of our logo. To make the video content a little bit more interesting, I've decided to do some simple retro pixel art. I'm not trying to create any full-blown videos. They're kind of more like moving wallpaper. If you listen to any of the lo-fi videos, that's kind of where I got my inspiration from. You'll have some lo-fi music and then kind of like this very simple, pretty background that's just like bouncing. So that's kind of the vibe I'm going for. All of the pixel art is hand pixeled by me or one of the players, and then we try to animate the videos in Adobe Premiere Pro. At least that's the workflow I'm using right now. So if you follow me on Instagram or TikTok at the ABCGM, then you'll probably see some of the pixel art spoilers dropped, right? It's a lot. There's a lot of character concepts. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of work. It's a lot more work than I thought it was going to be, but it's a lot of fun. And then let's see, what else do we have on my checklist here? I need to finish some adventures. We are writing 2 different short adventures. Emphasis on short because the alpha test was much longer than I suspected it was going to be. Or not suspected, much longer than I planned. I wanted it to be short and ended up being like 9 episodes or something like that. And so I have 2 new adventures in the works. One is cosmic horror. And the other one is pirate themed. So you have that to look forward to on the podcast. And now that we finished the alpha test, I want to review the rulebook in its entirety, right? It's a lot. It's a lot, not going to lie. The crash course is a really nice primer. That's what I recommend for everyone. It's probably the best way to start role-playing if you've never done any of these games before. But the basic rules do leave a lot to be desired, so I want to clean up the full rulebook and issue an official version 1. I honestly didn't find many issues with the system during the alpha test, so mostly I'm going to be focusing on clarity and making it more accessible for people who are new to tabletop gaming. So if you found something confusing, please reach out to me. Please let me know. You can send me an email. You can reach out to me on social media. Since I designed the system, it's really hard for me to know where the points of confusion are because I wrote it. I know exactly what I meant. And so if there's something that doesn't make sense to you, please feel free to reach out. And so finally, as you can tell by this fairly long to-do list, I feel a little bit like butter spread across too much bread right now. And if you get that reference, we can be friends. If you don't, we can still be friends, but I'm going to force you to watch 9 hours of Lord of the Rings. All right? Accordingly, I'm going to take a break from recording podcast episodes, similar to how we did after season 1, right? So I just want to be able to clear my plate and get this kind of checklist done. If you want to stay connected with me, I recommend following me on social media. I've listed my handles in the podcast episode description. I recommend subscribing to our channel either on YouTube or on your podcast provider. That way, when we do come back for season 3, it'll just show up right in your recommended or show it up right in your playlists. Personally, I use Pocket Cast. I'm completely unaffiliated with them. It's just what I started with. And I love that when you subscribe to a new podcast, it just automatically adds it right into your playlist. And so when a new episode comes out in one of the podcasts I'm interested in, it's right there. I don't even have to think about it. And so that is all the information I have right now. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to me on social media. But with that, it's time to say goodbye. This is the ABCGM signing off. I'll see you next time.